everyone. Thank you all for joining our presentation today. We will start 2 minutes past the hour so that everyone can join. Thank you for your patience. Meanwhile, please add a plus in the chat space if you can hear me well. Would be really helpful. Так, всім привіт. Я ще повторюсь на українській. Наша презентація сьогодні буде проводитись англійською. Наш спікер з Лондону, але запитання можете писати в чат також українською, ми їх просто будемо перекладати, але відповідь буде англійською мовою. Напишіть, будь ласка, поставте плюсики, чи ви мене всі добре чуєте. Дякую. Okay, I believe we will start. So, hello again. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining our today's presentation. My name is Natalia Rywak and I work in Salesforce Commerce Competency Center at EPAM. I'm very pleased to meet you all. Before we proceed to our presentation today, I would like to share a few presentation mechanics with you. The presentation will last for 40 minutes, leaving 15 minutes for Q&A session at the end. Please write your questions in the chat space and we will cover all of them after our presentation. You may write your questions also in Ukrainian and we will go one by one to cover all of them. This session will be recorded. Our topic today is Headless Commerce and Serverless Architecture, Opportunities and Challenges. And our speaker is Bhimal Bapoo. Welcome, Bhimal. And Bhimal is our Senior Solution Architect from London in EPAM. Bhimal has rich experience of 10 years in building e-commerce solutions and even more experience in engineering. He started his programming career path as C++ engineer. Today, Bhimal kindly offered to share his experience, expertise, knowledge in headless commerce and serverless architecture, its perspectives, opportunities, and I believe it will be really beneficial, useful for all of you. Before we proceed to this presentation, I would like to also welcome our Senior Director, Technology Solutions and Head of our Salesforce Commerce Competency Center at EPAM, Miles Bunbury. He will share also his vision on the relevance of today's topic and will be pleased to welcome all of you. Welcome, Miles.
Thank you, Natalia, and hello to everyone on the line, or привет if you're in Eastern Europe there, Ukraine or otherwise. So yeah, thank you for joining us today. So EPAM has been doing headless commerce for almost a decade now. Recently, however, headless commerce has really grown substantially in popularity, and there's a good reason for that and why you're seeing it at all the trade shows, etc. It provides an extensive list of benefits, including improved customer experience, enhanced control, better scaling, reduced downtime, and an ability to adopt innovative marketing without disturbing the back-end processes and greater system. Innovation in cloud services, microservices, and headless commerce architectures provide opportunities for companies to develop new business models and embrace the newest ideas and leverage the latest technologies. Despite these benefits, though, which of course you'll hear a lot at the trade shows, etc., headless architecture also introduces challenges to consider, and these are things you may not hear about quite as much. These include increased security threat factors, the need for additional infrastructure and testing, and a larger and more diverse mix of technical skill sets for development, just to name a few. Introducing proper design approaches and security models help ensure that the benefits of headless commerce are realized while minimizing the risks and drawbacks. I'm pleased today to present Bhimal Bapoo, one of EPAM's leading Salesforce Commerce Cloud solution architects, who's going to share his vision, his experience, and his research into the following areas. 1, why headless architecture is a modern relevant solution. 2, what benefits headless architecture brings. 3, insights into serverless computing, its characteristics and opportunities. 4, trends for a virtual workforce and services. 5, insights into DevSecOps and CI/CD processes. 6, headless architecture for Salesforce B2C Commerce Cloud, such as a React-based decoupled storefront based on SFRA. 7, new headless architecture for Salesforce B2C Commerce Cloud based on Salesforce's PWA Kit, which some of you may recognize from the Mobilify acquisition. And 8, security and privacy aspects of headless architecture. So again, pleased to have you guys all on the call today. I hope you're excited for this topic and the content. Bhimal, I'm going to turn it over to you. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Natalia and Miles, and welcome to you all. Very pleased to have you today, and I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Let me know if you see my screen. Okay. Very well. So the agenda, we want to be headless. I keep hearing this mantra from our clients. Last year, I discussed why headless commerce would become mainstream, and by extension today, we will briefly explore the opportunities and challenges for retailers responding to the digital rush, and by taking advantage of cloud services and in particular serverless technologies. We will also discuss how we, programmers, especially those aspiring to work on serverless technologies, should think differently. Let me just change my pen and pointer. So last year, we presented one of the architectures that we implemented. This is the Salesforce Commerce platform. It has a framework called SFI. And last year, we built a React frontend on top of our Salesforce Commerce platform. And we explored as well how to host that front-end technologies, which was React. We explored Netlify and AWS Amplify. We also found some of the trade-off that we had to make when moving into a decoupled storefront architecture. I've listed some of those here, and we have also at the beginning of this year explored the PWA Kit, just like Miles have mentioned. Salesforce acquired Mobilify, which provide a ready hosted solution for decoupled front ends based again on React. The system is still in progress and under development, namely the checkout and order section of the solution is not fully integrated, but they have a well articulated roadmap to complete that integration. And we have again train ourselves and made ourselves ready for this solution as well. However, the front end solution is only part of the offering. And we know that now that from Gartner, the key market findings is that 77% of digital commerce software revenue are going into cloud services. We've seen COVID-19 causing a rapid uptake of store integration and delivery capabilities. And Gartner is also identifying technical debt, vendor lock-in, and the cost and risk of replacing technologies as key factors hampering innovation. And Gartner recommends building digital commerce capabilities as part of a wider digital business technology platform. So we want today to go beyond the front end, and we would take a look a little bit at the back end. And I've expressed this as a capability map, and one of the latest thinking is that of a composable application architecture, where we develop key capabilities and assemble them. But one other thing I would like to highlight is that we ought to align technological and process capabilities to not only attain business goals or strategy, but also we should take into account the business organization structure and design our solutions around people. Those back office operations and staff, they drive eventually the customer experience. But as an example of how, say, we build a capability which is not provided typically by commerce platforms, for instance, the booking engine. Why should we consider serverless technologies? Well, 15 years or so ago, we used to build completely the physical machines, the network, host it, and then build applications on top of it. And then we move on to virtual machines, so the like of VMware, where you can have a shared physical machine split into several virtual machines. And then with each of those steps, we went to containers, namely the like of Docker. And as we move along, we see that, well, the IT effort of implementing those architectures is reducing. And if this is the common view in a way, if you look at the web, until now, where we go to serverless, we say, well, all we have to do is write the application code. And that sounds like a very alluring proposition. But we will delve into this a little bit deeper. So what is serverless computing? It used to be synonymous with AWS Lambda. But with time, a number of offerings have expanded into up to databases, applications, flow orchestrations, solutions. For this one, for instance, is this very focus on for mobile applications and so on. So you see AWS and some of competing offerings from Azure and Google Cloud. But one of the now that presents some opportunities. Now we don't need to have this. You want to experiment? We don't need to commission a server to build to experiment, to do some innovation and experimentation. It is pay as you go. You can request it instantly. And those cloud services as well provides opportunity for businesses to interpret. You can share data via in the backend by data lake. You could extend your network virtually, your private network across regions. The like of AWS, for instance, have the event bridge to links two separate accounts. So two business units now are, which say, for instance, one is marketing, or another one is HR. They may, for argument's sake, start collaborating via cloud services, APIs, which was in the past with the traditional models harder to achieve. And to illustrate this, let's take a look at this. This diagram is a little bit busy, but this traditionally, companies used to have a clear demarcation between, let's say, the trusted internal corporate network and the untrusted public domain. Most companies have either moved some of their workloads to cloud services, and scarce expertise is needed to ensure these environments have compatible levels of defense. For instance, we look at the zero trust model has established itself as a reference in security design based on the principle of least privilege. Whether inside or outside the organization domain, no entity should be implicitly trusted. So what opportunities do ubiquitous cloud services offer? As an example, as mentioned, you can now configure private networks across geographical regions. This network could be located in Europe, this one in Canada, but we can link them up. We can have identity federation, which allows you to perform authentication and authorization at scale. You can use an existing corporate Active Directory to perform all user administration without having to enter user credentials in AWS. Microsoft Active Directory Federation Services provides single sign-on access and acts as an identity broker between AWS and Active Directory. And development teams as well can be assigned to different AWS accounts to which resource usage and cost can be attributed. So this is one of the key difficulties, problems that some of our clients are facing, is how to make the cloud services just an extension of their business and their IT infrastructure. We development teams as well can be assigned to different AWS accounts to which resource usage and cost can be attributed. However, we developers, we are also provisioning infrastructure in the cloud, and we are building application. We should demonstrate an awareness of security at all levels. We think of security as an onion consisting of several layers of protection. And EPAM provide expertise at all levels of security, and cloud services present unique opportunities to help our clients. We see also that for developers, they need to pay a lot more attention to when they are programming with cloud services to measure everything that they do. If, say, for instance, we are using a third-party library, can we instead use AWS native or service offerings instead of that third-party library? the library, is it safe? Is it secure? Is it legal? Does it comply with standards and of the client? And how do we also minimize the amount of code that we write? It's easy to say small is beautiful, but it requires a lot more analysis, research in order to achieve it. And we have guidelines such as the AWS principles to help us make those choices for our clients. I've shown here that this diagram is not necessarily accurate, but this is an illustration of AWS step functions. With that, you can orchestrate what steps get executed, and some of those steps are not necessarily consist of code, but they integrate with other AWS services, and they can perform actions with you without code execution. And as you build your step functions, you need to think about how do you link them up? Does that step function directly know this one, or does it make or should it be decoupled? Which illustrates this point. We need to mix choreography and orchestration, or if we did. We need to attach monitoring to that and detect if there is a failure or if there is a security issue. How do we automatically take the offending code out and replace it by something else? And then finally, of course, performance, reduced resource usage. It's a key tenet to our responsibility to be green and friendly to the planet. We also see the same thing again around security. This is about how do we build code. There is a lot more attention to, say, for instance, scanning our code. Does it contain password sensitive information in the code? The libraries we are using, scanning them as well. If we are using some containers to launch virtual machines, or that equally needs to be scanned. How do we store our credentials safely? We have several environments: development, UAT, SIT, production, and so on. And we can have hundreds of APIs. How do we control authentication, access? We would have certificates as well. What we see here that needs to be rotated or renewed, and as well as passwords and so on. And we see here the challenge to manage such an infrastructure without a high level of automation, without using patterns like the CDK patterns, for which would say to you, oh, I need an API gateway. You would want to use one of those patterns, which will build in some of the well-architected principles. So again, this is a change in our mindset when we are working with serverless technologies. And this one is about threat modeling. The exponential increase of interconnected applications and services is creating unparalleled opportunity for individual criminals, organized crime, and even nation states According to the International Information System Security Certification Consortium, nation states are not only engaged in cyber attacks, but often they assist local industries by sharing the results of their espionage on foreign competitors. The scale of the problem is just increasing. While we accept there is no room for complacency when it comes to security, it is always a challenge to communicate often complex security issues to the business and get these issues prioritized and addressed. So we use the threat modeling techniques to identify and characterize the system and data of interest. This is essentially a data flow diagram. We identify potential attack vectors and attack surfaces. We characterize the security controls for mitigating the attack vectors. And then we classify and rate risks that we cannot mitigate it, say, for instance, by impact on the business or the likelihood of the frequency of the occurrence of the risk. And we can use this tool so that to then record the risks that are not mitigated in a risk registry, so that, say, for instance, your security team can now put the problem area on a high level of monitoring if you can't fix a problem. So in an organization, security functions need to be aligned to the business strategy and goals. And as a developer, you should not leave security risk hidden in your code or design decisions. So we use threat modeling not just for analysis and development of insight, but also as a vehicle to communicate with security experts and business managers, so that the information generated from your analysis can be fed into corporate decision making. Very hard. My own personal experience I had when I wasn't with EPAM, I had a client and they made a dubious use of cookies to enable extended login. So of course, it provides convenience for when you're doing purchases that you don't have to log in and log out, but there was a security concern, and I found it very difficult to express it in business terms and get the funding to have the issue recognized and addressed. So these kind of techniques is a way of formalizing the communication and rating the risk. It is a way for the business to be business cannot then ignore it. I think I have reached the end of the presentation. So to wrap up, automation is not an option. The complexity and size of systems and the granularity of services that we are dealing with, we need to automate everything, not just the build, the release, but we automate security, we automate alarms, monitoring. In our case, we do not rest on best practices. We stay tuned to all the innovation and new features, and that's making the like of AWS, Google, Azure are making available. We adhere to the well-architected principles when we use them to guide our thinking and choices and designs. We also we have within EPAM teams of torchbearers. You would have parallel teams working on different problems, but we need the same level of consistency in the work, and these torchbearers are there to guide the decisions, review the solutions, and make us aware of even potential pitfalls and failures within even the like of AWS, Google, or Azure. And we also, these innovations is not just about code, it's what is the impact to the business? What can we do extra for the business with those growth models? And that could be about making them more, not just more agile or responsive to changes or reduce costs, but also to make perhaps better usage of data and provide real-time customer experiences based on data. And lastly, I would say, again, all our decisions, in my view, should be focused also around people. They are the ones who make the decisions. They are the ones who drive processes. They are the ones who whose ideas bring in better service and customer experiences. At that point, I would like to invite now a member of the EPAM Salesforce Competency Center to say a few words about EPAM.
Thank you, Bhimal, for the excellent presentation. I just want to get the screen share back up for our EPAM slide there. Yeah, so thank you everyone that joined. So those of you that may not be familiar with EPAM, we just wanted to leave you just with some insights as to who EPAM is and what we are. So we're a global organization approaching about 3.5 billion in revenue, about 45,000 employees globally, with heavy footprints in the Eastern European area. Including Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia, but there's folks like myself in Canada, lots of big footprints in the United States, Mexico, the UK, and China and the APAC region as well. We were founded in 1993 and have been growing very rapidly and steadily over the last number of years. You can see in the upper right corner there, we've had 5-year revenue CAGR of 24+%. And for those of you that might be thinking about EPAM and saying, hey, maybe this is a place that I want to work, with that growth comes a lot of opportunities. We are hiring like crazy, both within Salesforce Commerce Cloud directly, within our Salesforce practice at large, including the other Salesforce clouds, and just within the digital and technology space in general. So whether you're a developer, a QA, a BA, project manager, account manager, etc., if you're hungry for challenge, if you're hungry to help clients and work with the world's best engineers, then EPAM is here for you. If you're more on the account management side, looking for a partner to come in and help you, with your current business challenges, I'll direct you to sort of the bottom left corner there. Regardless of industry, EPAM, has sort of your end-to-end needs covered. We've been focusing on headless and serverless and Salesforce, a bit here today, but we are cross-platform. We are platform agnostic. We handle SAP, Adobe, all the other major stuff. We're a member of the Mock Alliance in terms of headless and microservices and clouds type of services in general. We do custom development in Java and .NET, and again, it's cross-industry. Whether you're in the software and high-tech space, where we do work for companies like Google and Apple, financial services, travel and consumer. We have a lot of the premium, retail brands. And working with a lot of the Fortune 500 companies as sort of an EPAM thing. So if you're looking for a net new partner, and maybe this is your first introduction to EPAM, do please give us a call, sales@epam.com, and someone can reach out, or you can reach out to Natalia, Bhimal, or myself here, and we'll be happy to direct you within EPAM. All right. I'm going to turn it back over to Natalia now to facilitate our Q&A session. Natalia?
Thank you, Miles. Thank you, Bhimal, for a great presentation. And let's proceed to our Q&A session. Let me remind that we will cover all your questions. You may write them both in Ukrainian, in English. Please add them into the chat space, and we will try to cover them. So, please. Okay, maybe then I will ask a question regarding today's topic, and what is, so mostly we cover today the roadmap and perspective of Salesforce B2C Commerce Headless architecture, but as far as we represent Salesforce Commerce Competency Center at large, including also Salesforce B2B Commerce, which is former Cloud Craze, I would like also to ask about the perspectives and future development of headless architecture in relationship to Salesforce B2B Commerce Cloud.
Well, the B2B Commerce Cloud already have an API. It is and it's deeply ingrained with the Salesforce platform. Salesforce B2B is not as well integrated with the Salesforce Commerce platform. The Salesforce platform. But if you, say, for instance, would like to bring the two systems into one experience, you would need to build a front end that would call the respective APIs of for B2B and B2C to provide a common experience, and there would need to be in the backend a data sharing between those two systems. I don't know, Natalia, if this answers your question.
Yeah, I think yes. Thank you. And let's maybe also wait for a few more minutes. Colleagues and guests, please add your questions in the chat space so that Bhimal can answer those.
But also, so if I may extend that, also what we are looking at largely, or the latest thinking, is the composable architecture, where you, instead of thinking of just say a B2C or capability or a B2B capability, we think of what are the business capabilities that say a certain client may want, and these capabilities may englobe more than one API, but it would be like it is a standalone feature that you can build and release as an independent team, and you can build your own API for it. And we last year was talking about API management, but this is also quite an important topic on how we manage the version API, how we manage releases around them, how do we make them backward compatible, and so on. And but we are more thinking about, when we talk about serverless and headless commerce, we are more talking about now building business capabilities. And of course, as I showed in the business capability map, they need to relate to the business strategy and goals. We need to one of the key work that we do as architects is to link up all these capabilities, technologies with a business goal, and also and the people who are managing the back office operations. We need to think about the organization model, the various business units or business divisions, how they work, because their processes are eventually what drive the experience in the front end. So that's really how we.
Thank you, Bhimal. Thank you. We have one more question. So, is there any difference between cloud computing and serverless computing, or they are just two different naming of the same thing?
Well, in cloud computing serverless computing is a subset of cloud computing. Cloud computing would have a much broader set of services. For instance, in cloud computing, you have the like of machines. In AWS, we call them EC2 services, but they are you can commission a machine. But a serverless, if I go back to my slides, let me show you. I think it was this one. So here's the characteristics. It's pay as you go. So you pay for the resource consumption when it is invoked and executed. Whereas, for instance, an EC2 instance, you would pay for the duration of the instance is up. You have a machine running, which it's still cloud services, but it's not pay as you go. It is event driven, meaning it is maybe a click or a message or some event or maybe an alert in your monitoring system. It can trigger the execution of some logic. It's horizontally scalable, meaning that you don't have to. Actually, you don't get the option really to manage the computing resources. It's done by the cloud provider, but the cloud provider will scale it up for you. So these are some of the characteristics of serverless computing. The other broader cloud services do not necessarily follow those characteristics.
Thank you, Bhimal, and thank you for the question. We do not have currently any more questions. So on this note, I would like to thank you all. Thank you, Bhimal, for interesting presentation. Thank you to our organizers who provided the support for the speakers, and thank you very much for all the attendees that you contributed your time and energy and attended our event. We are really looking forward to see you at our next presentations, and have everyone a great evening and take care. Thank you.
Thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye.